This is a Global Skills Podcast, conversations that shape the future of work and learning. We're exploring how we close the skills gap and build a future where everyone has the chance to thrive. From education to business, connecting people, ideas, and opportunities that drive change. It's about collaboration, curiosity, and creating real impact today. Because every skill learned brings us one step closer to a more inclusive world. The Global Skills Podcast, where learning and opportunity come together. Today on the Global Skills Podcast, I'm joined by Duane Baumgartner, founder and CEO of City Ranked Media. Based in Vancouver, Washington, Duane has spent more than 15 years helping service-based businesses grow through data-driven SEO, high-performance web design, and next-generation marketing automation. His digital ramp model and Scout platform are reshaping how companies scale using real-time attribution, AI, agile processes to drive measurable revenue. But Duane's journey from early roles in security and media to building a leading digital growth agency offers valuable insights for any organization navigating this fast-changing marketing and skills landscape. You're very welcome to the Global Skills Podcast.
Thank you.
I would love to start understanding where you started in your early career and what led you down the path of entrepreneurship.
I think my entrepreneurship's always been kind of my family's blood. My grandfather, whose name was also Duane Baumgartner, he's passed away now, but he owned a refrigeration business when I was very young. So it was kind of always a part of my growing up. And I think I probably started my first business. I was about 8 or 9. Doing yard work for neighbors and stuff. So it's always been kind of part of that. But I got into advertising, I want to say, I think it was 2002. Just responded to an ad out of the newspaper. It was for a little company called Verizon. And it turned out it was actually their advertising division working for Verizon Information Services, which we would sell yellow page ads and online listings to local businesses here in the Pacific Northwest.
Okay, one of the toughest type of sales. I remember having a recruitment company, and our equivalent in Ireland was the Golden Pages, getting the big thick book out and selling that space like it was premium.
Yeah, it wasn't terribly tough. Once I figured out that we had a limited availability product, I was always told growing up that I would never be a good salesperson.
That early experience that you had in developing your sales skills, I think for some people today, that's missing, that one-to-one connection with so much being online. What are your thoughts around that fundamental skill set of one-to-one connection with people?
I think the reason I primarily was good at sales is because I was very, very interested into kind of the whys and the reasonings why somebody would quit their safe 8 to 5 Monday through Friday job and put everything on the line to risk it to open up a business. And so that was always very interesting for me to talk to my advertisers about that journey and why they did that. And then, one of the things I found, and I still find it, over 20 years later, I still find it extremely fulfilling, is being able to help these types of business owners, obviously leverage their skill set, but also help them with my skill set to grow their business. And I think that has, at least with my particular selling style, has made me successful because I actually do care that we're delivering good measurable results. And that was something that was important to me when I first started my agency all the way back in 2011, is that I wasn't afraid to insert tracking lines and report on things like how many organic conversions a customer is getting and stuff. Back then, agencies typically only measured paid conversions. So, yeah.
How has the landscape been changing in the last year or two with the evolution of AI and obviously automation of more of the manual tasks? What's happening for you?
A lot of business owners, especially we focus heavily in the home services verticals, things like pest control, plumbing, HVAC, roofing, stuff like that. And I think that segment of the industry, although there are some businesses that will quickly adopt new technologies and stuff going forward, but a lot of that is, not wanting to change status quo. And, for the longest time, as long as I've been in this, status quo has been you buy and ads on Google and you focus your efforts on Google. And I want to say probably in the last 4 or 5 years, that has significantly changed. platforms like Meta and other platforms have a ton of data on these people and can are getting pretty good at understanding what services and products they might need even before the consumer sometimes realizes it. And so getting your customer in front of those types of people at that point in time is ultra important. So now we have to have conversations with advertisers about, a multi-platform approach and how important each channel is and why they need to be represented. And so I think that makes it a little bit more difficult of a conversation to have with these advertisers, which is primarily one of the reasons that we I want to say in the last year and a half, switched to this digital ramp model where we can focus on kind of two different sets of ideas from an account management perspective to drive the right types of behaviors with our customers. Because ultimately, if we have the right types of behaviors, the conversions will come in and the revenue will be there to prove that it works.
The sense that I'm getting from you and even from other leaders is if more automation is coming into the workflow for conversion rates, actually it's down to the ability to connect at a human level with someone, build a relationship, be able to communicate effectively, listen really well, present a solution with AI built in, but that really meets the needs. Would you say that's the case? And if so, the skills of your team, have you been thinking, okay, we need to advance them more on the human skill side because of
Yes,
this?
yes, that's a big focus. And actually, we're doing a training here in the agency on that today. I think that was kind of a big question. I'll kind of break that down. I think that it's very important for businesses now to really understand that the days, when they first opened up business, maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago, those types of days are over where you just had to check your email a couple times a day to make sure were answering any inquiries that are coming out of your off your website and checking your voicemail and answering the phone when you can. Today, people expect you to be answering the phone right away, responding to chat messages right away, because life moves extremely fast right now. And just because I'm looking for something right here, right now, 5 minutes, in 5 minutes, I'm off to something different. And so that's one of the things that we really, really try to work with our customers on is how can we present an exceptional customer experience from the very onset of that person entering one of the digital properties that we manage and ultimately reassure that person. As far as changing skill sets with my employees, we've kind of broken this into two different tracks. We kind of have now, as we're running things on two different kind of project management type of models where we have kind of all of our technical things that we know have to happen. And so those are on a completely different project management track. And then we really have to start working as an agency. And I think agencies are going to have to do this, of being more creative and standing out in an extremely crowded space with a lot of competition. And the way you have to do that is you're going to have to be much more quick, much more nimble, and make decisions much faster, which is one of the reasons we moved towards agile marketing project management.
Yeah. I mean, actually thinking about it, and I don't think this is the only industry, I guess the customer or client is nearly becoming the competition because I'm seeing it in L&D with industry. I'm hearing more and more, teams are being told no more hiring and let's automate. And can anyone build an agent? Is there anyone on the team that, so if you've customers or clients thinking that way, in a way, they're sort of becoming not competition to you, but they're trying to do it in-house when you know that there are a lot of pitfalls when you try and do it yourself. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, that was something we saw, that all of a sudden just kind of came out of nowhere towards the beginning of the pandemic. Think a lot of business owners realized that, they probably should have been paying a little bit more attention to their website and their digital marketing and stuff. And because of that, our business grew quite substantially during the pandemic. But a part of that is I think a lot of business owners, and this is just the entrepreneurial reality of that type of mindset, is that, I have a problem, I'm just going to hire somebody to fix it. And what we saw a lot of our customers do is run out and hire quote unquote marketing managers, which is great for us as an agency to be able to have that point of contact to work with on a daily basis. One of the unintended things that we didn't foresee happening though is when you have these marketing managers come in, obviously they have their ideas and their own ways to do it. And they obviously want to look like rock stars to their employer. So we had to work in such a fashion where we knew that the fundamental things that need to happen in order to create a successful, digital marketing campaign were being done while also satisfying the wants and needs that these marketing managers want. And sometimes we have to push back and say, that's probably not the best way that we'd recommend doing it. And as such, that's again one of the reasons we moved to the digital ramp, is because we get that agreement up front from the customer, the decision maker, that, hey, these fundamental things have to be done. These other things on the top that we're going to be focusing on a weekly or monthly basis are things that we can be a little bit more flexible with.
Yeah. And I think as well that if you have that sort of meeting of expectation early on, there's less chance of disappointment. But again, you just keep bringing it back to this absolute need for human skill, like to be able to negotiate that, agree it. And I had an experience earlier on this year, and I don't know if it's the same for where you are in the world, but we're seeing master graduates of digital marketers coming through, spending so much money on their education, and they're not even getting calls for interviews. And I ran this internship program where we were leveraging AI tools, and I was giving them references, and some have gone on to get jobs now, touch wood, thankfully. But huge investment to not even get a call. What are your comments or thoughts to, I guess, the younger generation?
I've heard, myself, I didn't have any experience in this. I had experience in selling it. I had experience in understanding the concepts around it. I've kind of taught myself, the fundamentals of programming and the ability to read it. Can I write it? No, absolutely not. But I understand the concepts behind it. And so, one of we do have a lot of partnerships with the local universities here to recruit out. Matter of fact, we have a new employee just started who just graduated from the university. But one of the things that we really enforce here and has been important for me to develop, especially over the last few years, is a place that is a good kind of stepping off point for somebody in their career. And I've been pretty steadfast on this since I started this, is that I really wanted to create a team environment where people could learn from each other. One of the things that was really tough is, when we went to work from home during the pandemic, that really stifles that kind of camaraderie and the innovation that comes out of those types of peer relationships. And so as soon as we could, we started transitioning people back to the office. We're back to the office now 4 days out of 5 days a week. And I can see a big change with just the sheer velocity of new ideas coming out of the team, which is really great to see. And I think a lot of our the folks that come here that maybe haven't had an experience in advertising before come here and go, oh, this is what a website is supposed to do. I thought it was something I was going to make that's going to be really creative and great looking, and people are going to be, wow, no, we have to also make sure that these things show up when people are searching for what this customer does. And so I think there's a lot of learning that goes on with that. Plus, we have tons of different positions. So somebody might come in. We've had people come in and we're like, hey, I'm an HR specialist. And they're like, wait a minute, I really am interested in this technical SEO thing you guys are doing. Is that something I could switch over to? And so, yeah, that happens sometimes.
Well, I'm really glad you said this, because I don't think enough businesses that are smaller consider the benefits of, I guess you could say, it's talent mobility or transferring skills. And I spoke to someone the other day, and they said they stayed long time with one organization because the flexibility was there to do that. But why do you do it in your business?
Again, maybe in, my position and kind of how I grew up, it's very, very important for me to create jobs locally and to give people the opportunities and frankly, the same type of opportunities I got growing up. I have had people when I was in my 20s that are still my mentors to this day, and they gave me a chance. They moved me into the office. They put me into management. They taught me kind of from the ground up, and that's been really important for me to pass that on to my employees, I should say, and also to create kind of an environment where we really, as one of our core fundamentals, it's innovation, is really foster an environment where, testing and doing things that maybe other people aren't doing and seeing what kind of results they achieve. I didn't even realize that my team has been working on, we work a lot in the pest control vertical. And so they started developing an app where somebody can take a picture of a pest and this AI engine will identify it just based upon the inputs that are put in there. So yeah, and I didn't even know they were doing that. So yeah, I think that's, those are the kind of cool stories that I really like to tell my customers. And I'm very excited for our Scout platform because it's kind of the next revolution is being able to capture every single lead that is coming into your business and exploit it as much as possible to either get it to the point of, yes, this is a qualified person, or no, they're not a good fit for my business.
I can relate about just being so amazed by teams when I think when teams are given a framework but just empowered to run with AI. For me, it's look, I come from the stage of recruitment agencies where you would put the CV back in the filing cabinet.
Yeah.
Did you print the CV? I can't do the interview, But something that we launched just a couple of months ago is a skills agent. And my assumption was it would be like ChatGPT, where you go in and maybe ask some rudimentary questions. But the agent now, because one question for companies is that every organization knows they have a skills gap, but not many leaders actually know what are the skills gaps today and in the future. And the skills agent with like that simple question, when it is plugged in, obviously, to the systems, not only does it say, well, here's your skills gap across every single team, department, at an individual level if you want, but here's what it'll be in the next 6, 12, 18, 24 months. And by the way, we'll put it into a Sankey chart for you and bum, 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 right in front of your eyes. What would have taken me, I don't know, uh, 10 hours more before. So it's mind blowing. But for leaders that are listening, that maybe they're in a big corporate environment and it's had to be a micromanage. That's just what C-suite wanted in the US or whatever it might be. But I think it's requiring people to be a little bit braver now and have their own micro teams and lead differently, lead with heart. But what suggestions would you have for, or even business owners that are thinking, I need to instill that culture in my business? What tip would you give them?
I came back into my agency a couple of years ago to kind of start rebuilding it from the ground up. And one of the things that I know is important, it was a model that I learned from my previous employer, not Verizon, but one before that, where they had developed this model out of Sweden. And essentially it was a extremely flat organization. And when I say a flat organization, that means that there's not, layers and layers of managers. And so I went back to my roots and was like, that kind of model works exceptionally well. You put the resources at the team level and those managers are empowered to make decisions and there's only one layer above them. And so we went to that model, I want to say 2 years ago, started to developing these managers, which also has an added benefit too, is that, a lot of times these are folks, especially in the creative and digital agency world, that maybe haven't had experience running teams before or managing that at that level. So it gives an opportunity for them to grow. Also gives them an opportunity to be creative. You could create a framework, a decision framework around what it is they can and can't do. And the greatest thing that came out of all that is for more than a couple of years, I've been really trying to put together kind of a key performance indicators measurement on teams and even at the individual level. And once we were installed those managers into those positions, it came pretty naturally where we were saying these are the agency's overall goals or key performance indicators. What is it that your team can contribute to these key performance indicators to make the company successful, make you successful, and even make the people that report to you successful? And there was a big change in how people responded to that, because obviously the performers want to make sure that they show that they're doing their work and everything. And then it also helped people understand that if they had some deficiencies on where exactly they needed to work on those.
That's amazing, Duane. I wasn't expecting you to share that, and you're the first to actually tell me about this idea, this modeling. How did you come across the modeling? Did you just research, or did someone tell you about the model?
It was, Typically, in the past, I don't particularly like running an agency. I like to get more into the weeds. I like working with customers on big ideas, seeing what works. And then once we kind of have proof of concept, either we develop a program around that or we replicate that in a smaller way for all of our customers or something of that nature. I came back in because I really was really passionate about our Scout platform and wanted to launch that correctly with some of our customers. But I think I came up with this because, I've been working with customers over 20 years, and we had a fundamental issue back in 2024 where customers weren't happy. And I'll go back to this marketing manager issue that we had where, we might have engaged primarily initially with the business owner or the CMO or the CEO of the company, and they told us very specifically what it was that they're looking for, and then 6 months later they hire a marketing manager because their company has grown and things changed. And of course, we want to take the information from that marketing manager and do the best we can with it. But when it inevitably happened is because things changed, expectations were not realigned. And so that is the biggest thing for happy customers and any type of advertising is realistic expectations have to be set from the beginning. And there has to be a way for you as an agency to measure those in real time. Because what was happening is we could go through an entire month and think that we're doing really well. The next time we would meet with them, we'd be like, hey, how did last month go? And they'd be like, oh, our bookkeeper or our CFO hasn't put out the numbers yet. As soon as I get those, I'll let you know. And then we'd get the news and maybe they did hit their goals or maybe they didn't. And what we were always doing is playing perpetual catch up because we were always just being reactive to that news. And so now we've kind of completely changed it with this agile marketing platform that we're using. As we do weekly stand-ups, and my account managers are massively focused on delivery of marketing qualified leads. And we measure everything by percentage to the client's expectations. And hopefully we're always above and beyond those expectations.
Yeah. Well, I think you put your finger on the pulse there around real-time data. It's a must now to be a smart business. And I see the same on the skill side, lots of legacy information being leveraged. Like when you say to a business, what are the skills of your people? Pull up the HR system. Let's have a look at the CVs. And you're thinking, that they're all learning outside of the workplace. And if we're not capturing that, we're missing a trick. It's really interesting. I have a closing tradition for the podcast. I ask 2 questions and you only have to answer one.
Okay.
Question number 1 is, have you a skill from when you were younger that you don't use anymore, but you'd like to? And if so, why? Question 2, and I guess it's for those young graduates coming out of digital marketing courses around the world. Is there any advice you give them on maybe they're not working, what they could do in terms of getting skills that could just even add value while they're waiting for that first role?
Sure, absolutely. The skill that I had when I was younger that I wish I could pick up back then, it'd be, the ability to go on a playground and make friends with anybody I meet. I'm a little bit more of an introvert here. So as an adult, that's a little bit more tougher for me to kind of break out of my shell. I think a lot of entrepreneurs, and, it's just something I've just learned, within the last few years is there's this term called imposter syndrome where you're not 100% sure of yourself, even though you might be 100% in your mind, you always have this fear or worry about what other people are going to think. And so that's been something I've been working on getting over. But yeah, as far as new graduates entering the workforce, I think probably one of the biggest things that they need to really understand, and I still see this a lot with the younger generation, is the failure to connect what it is they do to how that makes a business money. You think of even something as simple as creating a website, and I think when somebody comes out of college or the university, I don't know, and I don't 100% think that all the time they're thinking about how can I make this website better so it'll make more money for my customer, and why would I do that? All those kinds of things. So if you look at it from a business owner's perspective that, hey, I would like to be able to sell $10,000 websites, you're going to have to figure out a way to convince that business owner that website is going to give them $100,000, right? So I think that's probably the biggest thing, is being able to connect a real return on investment to those products and everything is that is a really important concept to understand in the digital agency world these days.
I can simply say this was a gem of an episode, and I don't think you intentionally realized to come in and share so many tips that you are doing unconsciously. Like I don't think you're even aware of the L&D structure that you have, the model structure. I mean, it's just, you're a brilliant example of an SMB, and I really hope there's other leaders that get to hear all that you've shared today. Duane, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, it was great. Well, I'm glad we were finally able to connect. I look forward to hearing it.
Whether you're leading a business, shaping education, planning your next career move, or just starting out, you're part of a global conversation about how we learn, work, and grow. If you've enjoyed this episode, tap subscribe so you never miss the latest insights. And if you've a moment, leaving a quick rating really helps people find the show. For early access to new episodes, event invitations, and the chance to connect with others driving real change, join the community at globalskillspodcast.com. The future of skills belongs to all of us. Proudly sponsored by Abodu, empowering organisations and educators with world-class skills technology to build a better future for everyone.